It's the first apple of the season. I've got all loads of different heritage varieties there as well, so we'd like to try a bit. There we go. You probably have got a Beauty Bath. Yeah, because the Beauty Bath is the one which all falls off it. It's the first apple, all falls at the same time, and it's also, the farmers in the old days, they literally had to put straw underneath the bottom of them because that's the only way they could stop them bruising before they got them into harvest. They found a seedling called Discovery, which we all know now, and that is the daughter or son of Beauty Bath, and that one didn't actually all drop. That's why we ended up Discovery. So you still, Beauty Bath's actually a week or 2 weeks slightly earlier than Discovery, but it's got that technical hitch with it. But it's a lovely apple, and you've just got to try a bit as well.
We inherited this very old tree.
Apples traditionally grew in forests anyway. They were forests of Kurdistan, in Tanzing forest where Barry Juniper went to visit, and the original apples were spread by bears along forest trails basically until we got to where mankind and horses took them on after that. So it is a native tree, and if you go back to Kurdistan and have a look, it's absolutely full of the Malus Kurzagorum it's called, which I've actually got one of the original trees here. This is actually the where is it? I have to find it now. I'll put it somewhere. So I've got the original wood from Barry Juniper, and it's only a little one, but it's, oh here, Malus Kurzagorum, which originally came, this tree is the original first ever tree from Kurdistan, and this is the one they've done the DNA on, and it's actually the original apple which ever came from the first ever forest. So when that produces an apple, it only produces this one's actually produces a smallish sort of apple. It gets bigger as the tree gets bigger. I have ate it, and it is still sweet when it's full colour, but that is genetically the first ever apple ever produced, because they've done the DNA analysis on it and they've tracked it back. So Barry kindly let me have some wood, so I graft them up every year, and it tends to be the enthusiasts want one of those in because they want to have the first ever apple. I don't know if they're chasing Eden, but if they are chasing Eden, I've got an apple called Eden anyway, so as well, which is a Gloucestershire variety. In a woodland, I would plant a tree which can be reasonably hardy, and also a tree which is going to have the potential to grow a reasonable size as well. So you don't really, you could grow a dwarf variety if it's going to be right on the edge of it. So if you were going to do like what they call a terrace woodland, you can work the different varieties down so you still be able to do it. But something like a Barnet Beauty is a good one. They can cope with all different varieties. Golden Noble, they're actually trees which are actually recommended to actually planted in woodlands in the past. The only disadvantage you'll get with a woodland is, well, there's pluses and minuses. The fruit is going to take longer to ripen, so the plus side is you don't have to eat it all quickly. So you've got some out in the open field, and you've got some which is in the forest, it ripens slightly lower. Unless it's on the margin of the actual forest, you won't actually get so much developed colour. They stay more green. They will still ripen, you get the same flavour, but you won't have the same colour in there, unless it's right on the margins, and then you'll get the red colour come on one side of it from there. But there's at least 10 to 50, well, between 10, 20, 30 different varieties which I could recommend to actually plant in there. You could also plant plums in there as well, and you could probably get away with a quince on the edge. Crab apples are the best, because if you've got a crab apple in the woodland, it means that you've got something which is going to pollinate your own apples, and everyone else is within a 1.5 mile radius. So anyone who's got a crab apple in the wood and they've got nearby neighbours who've got lots of full fruiting trees, you should go around with a basket and ask for a donation for what you're doing to help pollinate them every time as well. So it would be good. Swap with your neighbours. Tell them you've got the first tree, and they can swap you some later ones as well. So you do need to have a good balance of different varieties within an area, so you get cross-pollination. To be honest, most apples, they categorise apples between A and G. Most apples tend to be within the B, C or D category. There's not many A's and there's hardly any G's at all. And so you're quite good to get pollination within that range. And crab apples tend to, there's some which pollinate A to D and some which do D to F, so you can be covered just by the crabs. It's very good. Beauty of Bath, yummy. If you start off with a really high alkaline, low pH 5 or less, you are a bit more inhibited in what you can do, so you'd have to go more along the lines of blueberries and cranberries, etc., and then maybe slowly build up the actual by adding a bit of lime to the soil, and then you could actually get more different stuff planted in there as well. You can actually have a system where you have a higher tree which will take the energy in at a level, and you work you down in stories basically. So you can have at the lowest level, you could have strawberries, then you can work your way up to sort of, if you can put yourself in an ericaceous level, you could put blueberries in, then you go to gooseberry bushes, and even where there's shade, you can put things like blackcurrants in there, and little bush damsons, etc. in there, and you just work yourself up in different levels. And so it's actually, and all the debris and the detritus which comes from the leaves, etc., goes back to feed the whole system. So as long as you get the right balance and you're not got too much shading, etc., from there, and you plan it the way the angles of the sun's going to work, you can have in a small plot you can get a lot. You can actually do even what I call intensive permaculture, where you can actually do a wire system in there as well, and then you can actually put loads of cordons back in and make a fence of cordons. You take the wires away after time. You don't have to be tied in by just planting stuff as well. You can be creative with it as well.
Yeah. What's your selling for